Aya Wilson's remarks in Time didn't fade into media noise. They ignited a national conversation that exposed deep fault lines within the WNBA. When she minimized Caitlin Clark's impact to 5%, the response was swift and overwhelmingly backed by hard evidence. Fans and analysts alike pointed to sharp declines in viewership and international reach following Clark's injury, calling Wilson's comments not only dismissive but damaging. Critics argued that while Wilson's accolades are undeniable, 3 MVPs, Olympic gold, the league's explosive rise in visibility and financial strength coincided almost entirely with Clark's rookie season. The numbers made that case uncomfortable.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
This wasn't just a matter of personal rivalry. It revealed how the league struggles to balance honoring its past while embracing its future. Wilson and veterans like Lisa Leslie undeniably built the foundation. But the level of attention, revenue, and global reach the league enjoys today simply hadn't happened before Clark. The clash isn't about diminishing legacies. It's about confronting a new reality where a single player sparked a transformation. Whether the league evolves or fractures will depend on how honestly it chooses to face that fact. It's official. The headline everyone saw coming but still didn't expect to hit this hard. Caitlin Clark has been suspended following a heated exchange with Aya Wilson. And just like that, one of the most polarizing chapters in WNBA history has reached a boiling point. But this was never just about one argument. The tension didn't start courtside. This moment is the result of months of pressure, media spin, competing narratives, and the growing unease within a league struggling to manage its own rapid transformation. It started when Caitlin Clark stepped into the league with more hype than anyone since its founding days. And unlike past moments of momentum, this wasn't artificial. The numbers backed it up. Viewership shot up. Social media exploded. Merchandise sold out. And for the first time, international markets were actually paying attention. Clark wasn't just a breakout rookie. She was the catalyst for something the WNBA had been chasing for over 2 decades. Cultural relevance on a national and global scale. But then the resistance began, quietly at first and then louder. In July 2024, Clark's season came to a grinding halt with a devastating knee injury. With her out, the league was forced to answer a difficult question. How much of this growth was her? The answer came fast and sharp. A 48% drop in viewership almost immediately. That kind of drop is staggering. It wasn't a fluke. It was real-time proof of how much the league had come to rely on Clark's presence. And it wasn't just on TV. International metrics, subscriptions, jersey sales, engagement fell by 56%. That's not just a dip. That's collapse-level numbers. Clark's absence exposed how fragile the league's recent success really was. She wasn't 5% of the growth. She was the engine. But then came the quote. In an interview with Time magazine, Aya Wilson, the reigning MVP and undisputed veteran force in the league, dismissed Clark's impact as about 5% of the WNBA's recent growth. Whether it was said casually or strategically, it landed with a thud. And not just among Clark's fans. The entire sports world turned its head. Because the data didn't support that comment. In fact, it demolished it. Wilson's legacy is undeniable. 3 MVPs, Olympic gold, and a career built on consistency and dominance. No one's questioning her credentials, but the numbers show what they show. Before Clark, the league was struggling to find a breakthrough. Legends like Lisa Leslie and Diana Taurasi had built the foundation, yes, but it hadn't converted to mainstream attention. Then Clark arrived, and everything changed. Sponsors showed up. Media deals got bigger. One of them, a $2.2 billion 11-year national media rights deal, was a direct result of the league's newfound spotlight. A spotlight Clark brought with her. So when Wilson framed her contribution as a mere 5%, the backlash wasn't just about accuracy. It was about you. That comment set off a firestorm online, and it revealed something deeper than just a disagreement between 2 players. It revealed a fracture in how the league sees itself and how it wants to be seen. There's a constant push-pull between honoring the legends who built the WNBA and recognizing the new stars who are finally getting people to watch. It's a complicated dynamic, one built on years of overlooked effort and sudden visibility. Players like Wilson, who fought for relevance in the shadows, now find themselves sharing the spotlight with someone who brought it with her from day one. But here's the issue. Clark wasn't asking for a crown. She wasn't demanding to be labeled the face of the league. She was just playing, and when things turned political, she stayed quiet. She didn't challenge Wilson publicly. She didn't fan the flames. She focused on recovery. She didn't post cryptic stories. She didn't give interviews. Her silence made the noise around her even louder. And through that silence, Clark became a mirror for the league's identity crisis. Because when a player generates record-breaking interest and then gets minimized in interviews, sidelined in Olympic rosters, and suspended over an off-court exchange, people start asking questions. Fans, sponsors, broadcasters, they all want to know what the WNBA really stands for right now. And this latest suspension, it didn't answer any of those questions. It just made them louder. The league didn't release specifics, just a statement about internal conduct and player professionalism. But the reaction was immediate. Clark gets suspended. Wilson doesn't. No clarity, no transparency, just more fuel to the narrative that Clark is being punished for being too successful, too popular, too much. That's the word that keeps circling around her, too. She's too hyped, too followed, too praised, too important to the bottom line. And in a league built on grit and loyalty, some people aren't comfortable with what she represents. Change that didn't ask permission. But what's getting lost in all of this is that Clark's rise didn't diminish anyone else. The fans she brought in, they didn't take away from Wilson. They added to the league. They filled arenas. They clicked on highlights. They bought tickets. It's not subtraction. The truth is Wilson and Clark don't need to be rivals. They're both essential to the WNBA's success. One built the road. The other lit it up. But the league, by allowing this rift to deepen, keeps choosing division over unity. They let legacy and progress clash instead of coexist. And that's the real loss here. Because now, as Clark prepares for her return in 2026, the league is at a crossroads. Does it continue to minimize her role? Does it push her to the sidelines in favor of maintaining a legacy-first narrative? Or does it finally embrace the full truth? That Clark's impact is real, measurable, and essential? This suspension will fade. The headlines will cycle. But the consequences of these decisions won't. If the league keeps letting internal conflict undermine its momentum, it risks squandering everything Clark helped build. The media deals, the new fans, the international attention. None of that is guaranteed to last. It all depends on what happens next. If the WNBA can shift course, acknowledge all contributions, past and present, it could finally become the global powerhouse it's been chasing for years. But if it keeps letting media spin and internal politics dictate the story, it could stall right when it's on the edge of something historic. Clark's return is coming, and with it, another wave of conversation, another spike in interest, another chance to do things differently. AW. The league doesn't need to choose between Wilson and Clark. It needs to stop acting like it has to, because the real power is in unity, in telling a story that celebrates both grit and growth, that honors the players who paved the way and the ones who got people look. And two, if you're watching this play out with your jaw on the floor, you're not alone. Hit the like button if you think the league needs to stop underestimating what Clark's brought to the table. Share this if you're tired of the either/or narratives. And drop a comment. Do you think the suspension was warranted? Or did the league just make a mistake it's going to regret? And if you're not already subscribed, now's the time. This story is far from over. The truth is, this moment right here, the suspension, the backlash, the headlines, it's not the league falling apart. It's the league revealing itself. All the progress, all the buzz, all that we're finally getting the recognition we deserve, energy. It was never just about basketball. It was about narrative control. And now the narrative is slipping. Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the feel-good story. The All-American prodigy bringing new eyes to a league that's always been overlooked. And for a while, That's exactly what she was. But then she got too big too fast. She became more than a player. She became a symbol. And symbols are dangerous when institutions don't know what to do with them. So the league tried to contain her. They kept her off the Olympic roster, despite undeniable fan support. They let the media steer a narrative that made her out to be just a sideshow. And then came the Time magazine interview. Aya Wilson minimizing Clark's influence as just 5%. That wasn't a stat. That was a message. It said, we're not giving her the credit. And sure, maybe Wilson meant it differently. Maybe it was about making space for the women who built this league long before Clark ever stepped on a WNBA court. That's a fair conversation to have. But the problem is no one's diminishing what those veterans accomplished. The only one being downplayed here is the person who fundamentally changed the game's trajectory. And the receipts speak louder than any quote. When Clark went down with her season-ending knee injury in July 2024, the bottom fell out. A 48% drop in viewership. Not just for her team, but league-wide. That's not coincidence. That's cause and effect. And the decline wasn't just local. International engagement, social media, subscriptions, jersey sales collapsed by 56%. Those numbers weren't built on hype. They were built on connection. Clark wasn't just watched. She was followed. She brought people into the WNBA conversation who had never been part of it. And when she disappeared, so did they. So when someone like Wilson, a leader, a face of a league, someone who has benefited from Clark's visibility, minimizes that impact, people notice. And they don't forget. Especially when the framing gets picked up by major media outlets and repeated without question. And that's where this thing got messy. Because it stopped being about stats and started being about perception. Suddenly, Clark wasn't just the injured rookie phenom. She was cast as the outsider. The one who didn't earn her spotlight. The one whose success was handed to her by the media, not forged on the court. Never mind the record-breaking numbers. Never mind the fact that she was responsible for more merchandise revenue than most of the league combined. The narrative was shifting and not in her favor. But through all of it, she stayed quiet. No reaction to the Olympic snub. No response to the Time article. No subtle Instagram shade. Nothing. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes people wonder if you're plotting or just letting the numbers talk for you. Then the exchange happened. What was said between Clark and Wilson remains under wraps. The league isn't sharing details. But the aftermath was loud. Clark suspended. Wilson untouched. And just like that, the power dynamics were put on display for everyone to see. This wasn't just discipline, it was a message. A reminder of who controls the story. AW. But here's the problem. You can't suspend a symbol. You can't silence momentum. And no matter how many vague press releases you issue, fans aren't stupid. They see what's going on. Clark didn't bring in casual fans. She created invested ones. Fans who are watching this saga unfold not just as basketball drama, but as a test of whether the WNBA can actually handle the spotlight it claims to want. Because right now, it looks like they're scared of it. 2. This could have been handled so differently. The Time interview could have been an opportunity to elevate both players. Wilson as the veteran powerhouse, and Clark as the rookie phenom lighting the way forward. A narrative of legacy meeting evolution. Growth, not conflict. Instead, it became a zero-sum game. And that's the real loss here. Because this isn't just hurting Clark. It's hurting everyone. When a league dismisses its own rising star, it sends a message to sponsors, media partners, and global fans. We're not ready for this moment. And that moment is not coming back twice. The $2.2 billion media rights deal didn't happen in a vacuum. That kind of money doesn't show up unless there's proof of potential. Caitlin Clark was the proof. She took a league that had plateaued and gave it momentum. Not by stealing it, but by being it. She brought in fresh eyes. She made the WNBA water cooler talk. And what she gotten in return? Disrespect from media, cold shoulders from some vets, and now a suspension. The league thinks it's protecting itself. But it's not. AW. It's doing damage to the very future it needs to survive. Because when Clark returns, which she will, this conversation won't go away. It'll get louder, more complicated, and far more visible. The question then won't just be, is she back? It'll be, has the league learned anything? Will they still treat her like an outsider? Or will they finally acknowledge what everyone else already sees? That she's not a fluke, not a fad, and not just 5%. She's the turning point. And the irony? She didn't ask to be. She didn't posture. She didn't politic. She just played. She did what every other star before her did. Only this time, the world was actually watching. That shouldn't be punished. That should be celebrated. But instead, here we are. Another scandal. Another fractured narrative. And a league that keeps stepping on its own momentum. 2. So what now? The league has two options. It can continue on this path, downplaying Clark's role, enforcing questionable suspensions, and propping up narratives that divide instead of unite. Or it can step up, embrace the full truth. Accept that sometimes growth doesn't look the way you thought it would. You can have both, the legacy of Io Wilson and the firepower of Caitlin Clark. You don't have to choose. But if you keep pretending one doesn't matter, eventually the fans will choose. And they might not choose the league at all, because fans aren't loyal to leagues. They're loyal to players. And right now, a whole lot of them are watching how this plays out very closely. And let's be honest, Clark's next chapter might not even need the WNBA to be massive. She's already a household name. She's already global. The question is whether the league wants to rise with her or get left behind trying to keep her small. If you're still here, you already know what this is. It's not just about basketball anymore. It's about how institutions treat the people who make them matter. It's about how power gets protected and how change gets punished. The question isn't whether Caitlin Clark will bounce back. That's already a given. She's young, she's marketable, and most importantly, she's proven. The real question is whether the WNBA can handle her comeback. Because when she returns, it won't just be about a player stepping back onto the court. It'll be about whether the league has learned anything from this entire mess. This unnecessary fracture between legacy and impact, between past and future. And right now, the signs aren't promising. Let's just say the optics are awful. AW, a rookie player, arguably the reason for the league's record-setting media deals and unprecedented global reach, gets suspended after a conflict with one of the WNBA's most decorated veterans. And not only does the league offer no real explanation, but they also leave the public to fill in the blanks. Fans aren't stupid. When the details are vague, the speculation fills in the gaps. And the overwhelming feeling? Clark's being punished. Not for what she did in that exchange, because again, we still don't have confirmation on what that was, but for who she is in the eyes of the public, for the attention she brings, for the pressure she puts on the league by simply being too relevant. And a lot of people would kill for that kind of relevance. But in the WNBA, it's being treated like a liability. That's not how you grow a league. You don't take your breakout star, the one whose absence tanked viewership by nearly half, and sideline her while pretending everything is business as usual. Especially not after you've already failed to support her during the Time magazine fallout, the Olympic snub, and the ongoing narrative that she's only 5% of the growth she actually drove. Because let's not lose the thread here. Clark didn't ask for this. She didn't campaign to be the face of the league. The public made her that. The fans chose her. The metrics backed it up. Google trends, engagement numbers, jersey sales, sponsorship deals. None of that is subjective. That's not hype. That's math. And yet, the response from the league has been painfully out of touch. The suspension wasn't just a disciplinary action. It was a statement. And not a good one. It told fans, sponsors, and global audiences that no matter how big Clark gets, she can still be pushed down. That the league would rather protect the status quo than embrace what's working. That even now, with more people watching than ever before, they still don't understand why they're watching. Spoiler alert, it's Clark. And listen, this doesn't mean other players don't matter. Io Wilson is one of the greatest to ever step on a WNBA court. She deserves her MVPs, her accolades, and her flowers. This isn't about erasing her legacy. It's about telling the whole story. And right now, that story includes Caitlin Clark. Denying that, minimizing it, or suspending it literally isn't just short-sighted. It's destructive. Because If you alienate the very fan base Clark brought in, good luck getting them back. These aren't just temporary viewers. These are new loyalists. They bought the jerseys. They showed up to the games. They invested in the league emotionally and financially. And they're watching closely now. They're asking, why is the league treating the player who changed everything like she's disposable? And you better believe they'll remember the answer. 2. This isn't just about sports. This is about perception, about public trust, and about how you treat the people who make your success possible. The WNBA has long been a league fighting for respect, fighting to be seen, heard, funded, and celebrated. And when Clark handed them that visibility on a silver platter, it was supposed to be the start of a new chapter, one where the league finally got everything it deserved: coverage, money, international attention. But instead, the reaction from within has been complicated. It's like watching a house finally get power, and then half the people inside complain that the light's too bright. The suspension, whether fair or not in isolation, fits into a much larger pattern of resistance. Resistance to change. Resistance to sharing the spotlight. Resistance to acknowledging that sometimes, yes, one player can change everything. And let's be real, the numbers speak for themselves. That 56% international drop after Clark's injury, that's not just about one player missing games. That's about a massive audience checking out because their connection to the league disappeared with her. This isn't sustainable. If the WNBA wants long-term growth, it needs to protect the momentum Clark created, not punish her for it. It needs to promote unity, not division. And it definitely needs to stop treating its biggest draw like a PR problem instead of the opportunity of a lifetime. Because stars like Clark don't come around often. And when they do, leagues are supposed to build around them, not push them away. The road forward should be simple. Celebrate Clark's impact, embrace Wilson's legacy, and stop pretending this has to be a competition. It doesn't. In fact, it can't be, because the only thing the WNBA can't afford right now is infighting. There's too much at stake. This league has never had this many eyes on it, never had this much money on the table, never had this much cultural relevance. And if it squanders that by playing internal politics or letting outdated hierarchies dictate progress, the cost will be irreversible. Clark is coming back, stronger, more visible, and with even more people rooting for her now. And when she does, the league better be ready, not just to welcome her, but to support her, to elevate her alongside the vets, not against them, because the fans have made their choice. Now it's time for the WNBA to make theirs. If you're still watching this unfold with your jaw on the floor, you're not alone. Tap that like button if you think Clark's suspension sent the wrong message. Drop your take in the comments. Was this really about conduct or something bigger? And share this if you're tired of watching greatness get sidelined, because it makes the system uncomfortable. And hit subscribe, because when Clark returns, trust me, it's going to be the biggest comeback story the league's ever seen.